Wish you all a very pleasant morning. Vidya dadati vinyam, vinyadayati patratam, patratvad dhanmapanoti, dhanat dharma tatah sukham. This age-old wisdom is relevant even in the contemporary times. And as we assemble here today at this Dr. Sheena Thomas, Head Department of Education, BSSS, and convener of the seminar. Dear colleagues, students, teachers, and dear participants, I extend a warm and cordial welcome to one and all who are joined together virtually on this platform today for the inaugural ceremony of the two-day ICSSR-sponsored national level virtual seminar on NEP 2020, a roadmap to self-reliant India, prospects and challenges, 18th and 19th February of 2022. The Bhopal School of Social Sciences celebrates its golden jubilee this year, and our faith in the future of this institution is fully justified by the achievements of its 50-year past. And today, we once again come to you with this academic event sponsored by the Indian Council of Social Science Research, which is an endorsement of our quality contribution towards higher education, to which we have been promising future since 1972, as our Jubilee tagline profess. The objectives of this college throughout the 50 years of its existence have not changed. The students and faculty members may come and go, but this institution's noble aim remain as a beacon for others to follow. This national seminar is yet another humble endeavor on our part to understand the nuances of National Education Policy 2020 to make its implementation appropriate and effective. Before we commence with the proceedings of the event, let us invoke the muse of learning and knowledge to give us the strength to contribute our part, to play our role as per the divine plan. I invite all of you to offer a sincere prayer and join the virtual lighting of lamp. The college is a temple of learning. Let us listen to the BSSS anthem as a ceremonial ritual which binds us together in that wonderful thread of BSSS family.
BSSS marching on, BSSS marching on to be a leader and a reformer to be a catalyst and to be a therapist. BSSS, marching on. BSSS, marching on to be a learner and a reviver, to be a teacher and to be a mentor, and above all to be a change with human values being instilled in the changing world.
I now invite Dr. Sister Sonia Kurian, Vice Principal, the Bhopal School of Social Sciences, to officially welcome our keynote speaker and the participants.
Thank you, Dr. Shivani. Good morning to all. It's my pleasure to welcome you all, the participants, for the two-day National Virtual Seminar. On behalf of the respected Principal Dr. Paddy John PJ and the entire BSSS family, I take this opportunity to welcome our keynote speaker, Professor C.V. Sharma, School of Education, IGNOU. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting our invitation and for spending your valuable time with us. Also, I would like to congratulate the convener, Dr. Sheena Thomas, Dr. Shiva Joseph, and the whole team for coordinating this seminar. Once again, I cordially welcome all the participants who have joined us virtually and who are presenting their purpose in the seminar. I wish the best to all. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. As we stand tall today with a heritage of glorious 50 years to cherish and pave way forward, carrying the legacy handed over to us, we begin our Golden Jubilee celebrations. Here's a curtain raiser to the celebrations to follow. Any academic event needs concrete planning in the form of well thought and explored ideas to begin with. Set the ball rolling for a brainstorming, which will further lead to a fruitful culmination of the event. That is the defined role of the convener. I take this opportunity to invite Dr. Sheena Thomas, convener of the seminar, to throw light on the concept note of the seminar.
Thank you, Dr. Shibani. In the words of Malcolm, education is our passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. National education policy is the foundation stone preparing for a better tomorrow, actualizing Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi's dream of Atmanirbhar Bharat. To build Atmanirbhar Bharat, the youth of the country needs self-confidence, which is directly connected to their education, knowledge, and skill. The progressive NEP will have a far-reaching impact in reshaping the resilience, destiny, and the global standings of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Without collaboration, our growth is limited to our own perspectives, and the Bhopal School of Social Sciences, led by our principal, Dr. Father John PJ, has been in the forefront adapting changes for a better tomorrow. We are happy to host this ICSSR sponsored virtual seminar on NEP 2020 Roadmap to Self Reliant India Prospects and Challenges, which will provide the right platform for thousands to hear the deliberations of great educationists. The seminar will have 4 technical sessions: NEP 2020 Implementation Strategies, Industrial and Academia Readiness, Reimagining Vocational Education, India 2.0 Vision for India 2047. This is a special segment under Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. The deliberations and discussions will definitely help us to pitch for effective implementation of NEP 2020, thereby leading to a self-reliant India. I welcome one and all.
Thank you, Dr. Sheena. We have amidst us an academician par excellence to unfold the nuances of NEP 2020 to us. Let me present the brief profile of Professor C.B. Sharma, our keynote speaker. Chandrabhushan Sharma is a professor of education at the School of Education, Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. He served as the chairman of National Institute of Open Schooling, NIOS, during 2015 to 2020. Under his leadership, the NIOS experienced a complete turnaround with many landmark new initiatives, including introduction of courses in Bharatiya Parampara, leading to award of secondary and senior secondary certificate in Indian knowledge tradition. He has 3 decades of teaching experience. He is the recipient of President's Award for commendable contribution to digital initiatives. Recognizing his talent and contribution, the Government of India had assigned the responsibility of training of more than 12 lakh untrained in-service teachers to the NIOS through the Diploma in Elementary Education, and the same was completed in a record time of 18 months. He has been on various national policy framing committees, including the committee constituted by the Government of India to review the National Council for Teacher Education, NCTE, and the committee constituted by the Government of India to draft the Distance Education Council of India bill. Under his leadership, the NIOS bagged the prestigious Commonwealth of Learning Award of Excellence for Institutional Achievement in Distance Education in 2016. The NIOS, under his able leadership, has made major contribution towards the education of the differently abled, especially the hearing impaired. A person with great depth of knowledge, genuineness of heart, and humility in he is best suited to explain what NEP stands for and what exactly is required of a teacher to make NEP a success. We welcome you once again, sir, from the core of our heart for gracing this event with your benign presence. We request you to take the stage now, sir, for your keynote address.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the adjectives and elaborate introduction. Thank you so much for inviting me, the Bhopal School of Social Sciences, patron AA Sebastian Durairaj, Father John PJ, Seema Thomas, the head of the Department of Education. I feel humbled and elated for this very kind invitation on your very auspicious occasion of completing 50 years of the Bhopal School of Social Sciences. I feel very, very humbled by this invitation for this very prestigious seminar that you have organized on your 50th anniversary. We are actually at a very crucial juncture of the country and education. it's very appropriate to discuss the National Education Policy 2020, especially the topic that you have taken, roadmap to self-reliant India. However, the tag that you have added to your title, prospects and challenges, is scary. Why do I call this National Education Policy 2020 a landmark policy? If you look at the policies that we gave to ourselves since 47 and even before 47, they are all comparable to this policy. In the sense, if I can make that statement, there's nothing new in this policy. This policy only reiterates the major highlights of previous policies and recommendations. However, this policy is different and landmark in the sense it's one of the shortest policy we ever gave to ourselves. Look at Radhakrishnan Commission, look at Mudaliar, look at Kothari, even 1986. They're all long documents. They are all about complete area of education, agriculture education, medical education, engineering education. This policy is different in the sense it talks only about three major areas: school education, higher education, and teacher education. The work on the national education policy started with the change in government in 2014. And I am reminded of the speech, the maiden speech of the Honorable Prime Minister to the Parliament on 11 June 2014, where he mentioned in his hour-long address to the Parliament, he spoke for about 7 minutes on education, and he had made clear what his government's plan of action would be about education. Compare it to the 1986 policy, which talked of emphasis on computerization, computer education, software engineering. And we have seen the results. In 30 years, India has exported scholars who are leading the best industries, institutions of the world. And also, the call center infrastructure of India has earned a lot of money. But this policy exactly intended to reverse with the vision that the Prime Minister gave. What is the roadmap? The roadmap is a self-reliant India. And that is why I congratulate the Bhopal School of Social Sciences for taking up the theme to look at the roadmap this policy charts for India. What did the Prime Minister say? He said three things about education. The first thing he said was 70% of the population and children live in villages and rural areas. They don't have access to good schools and good teachers. And third thing he said, can we not reach good teachers to these children through technology? India has exactly walked that path since 2015. The introduction of SWAM, in contrast and competition to Coursera, edX, and similar other MOOCs platforms, today SWAM is the largest MOOC platform of the world. 90% of the population lives in hinterland, and they can be reached only through the modern technologies. The media burst in 1982, since the Asian Games, has reached television to most children. We launched a satellite for education in 2004, did not make use of it and let it die. But still, in 2015, we have introduced the Swam Prabha. The roadmap was clear. We have to reach those who have been pushed out of the system, those who have missed the train. We must help them board the train at least now. In 2015, when a survey was done on out of school children, it was said there were about 2 crore children, 20 million children out of school, in spite of the massive money spent on primary education, literacy since 1990, the Johntian. And the policy itself says more than 3.4 crore children are out of school. What a shame. How can a nation dream to be a developed nation, a leading nation, without taking all on board education? This policy intends to do that. What were the problems? The major problem was the language issue. And this policy very cleverly handles the language issue in education. Every child must get primary education, lower primary education in mother tongue. It promises that, and let me assure you, work has started, and there are about 150 languages in which we need to provide lower primary education to bring all children to school. The major issue, the major reason for children dropping out of school was not providing lower primary education in mother tongue. This policy promises and does it. We have already started work on 40 languages, and let me assure, by 2030, we would reach the 100 language target. Lower primary in mother tongue is the first and the most important issue in retaining children. In spite of all policies, in spite of all promises, we could not do for all these years. This policy promises, and I'm sure it will do it. The second most important thing was that children between the age of 3 and 6 from the rural areas, from the less privileged, the girls were out of school because there were not good schools or no availability of facilities to be in a teaching learning center. The Anganwadis, which were created under the ICDS, were not teaching learning centers. The crucial age of 3 to 6 was lost. This policy promises to make or convert these centers into teaching learning, which is most crucial for retaining children and giving an equal opportunity to all children. The third very important issue that came before our committee in 2015 was children from poor backgrounds are so weak physically that they cannot apply their minds in schools, even if they are physically in the school. So, the third important promise that this policy makes is to provide breakfast to all children when they come to school. I am sure this will change the fate, the face, the future of this country. We let large number of children from rural backgrounds go out of school, be without education because they were poor, because they came from families which had no tradition of education for hundreds of years. This policy promises to undo this, and I'm sure this will happen by 2030. I believe you have taken 2047, reduce that to 2040. We'll have a different India 2040. Why I say this is, 27th July 2020, the policy was approved by the Central Cabinet. 31st July, I'm sorry, 29th July, 31st July 2020, the government shot a letter to all the states and gave instructions on the implementation. More than 30% of the recommendations have already been implemented. But will only retaining children convert India to a self-reliant India? No. We have very carefully looked at the curriculum of the school education. Too much emphasis on academic subjects. If India was at any point of time Sone ki Chidiya, it was because our schools were academic as well as vocational centers. There is as much need to put emphasis on vocational education as much to academic subjects. If in the ancient times our society was producing society, self-reliant society, it was because every individual, every family contributed to the production process and earning process. We parted ways because we wanted our population to serve a different culture and a country. Read Macaulay's Minutes. We have not undone that. We have not undone that ever since independence. This policy promises to put the academic, the vocational, the curricular, the extracurricular, co-curricular subjects at one pedestal. So even if a girl wants to learn dancing, even if a boy wants to learn dancing or painting or archery or sports or NCC or agriculture for that matter, would be allowed to study these as subjects in the school, which was very, very important. In 2015, when we started working on the national education policy, the demand was that make NCC one of the subjects in the school. It is globally available. Look at countries which have done so well. Look at South Korea. Look at Japan. Look at US. Look at UK. Such areas of human endeavor are part of the curriculum. Why not in India? Because what Macaulay said, the curriculum was designed and developed to prolong the British rule in India, and we have not undone it. This policy promises, and I'm sure it will do. What will change? Those who study carpentry, those who study leather technology will also be welcome in schools. We have no provision for that today. Our schools only respect those who understand physics, who understand chemistry, who understand mathematics, and aspire to be in IITs. So, of the 40 crore children who are in the schools, 3,000 every year are respected and adored. The rest are demoralized. That won't happen. Any child who excels in dancing, any child who excels in painting, any child who excels in agriculture will also be respected, will also be adored. That will make India a self-reliant India. So, children who came from families with agriculture background return to their families to say, what is this profession? Why do you do that? If you are not an IAS, you are nobody. This policy intends to undo that. The process of selection of subjects, the process of evaluation will all change. It was just mentioned, when I had the great opportunity of chairing the National Institute of Open Schooling, it was brought to my notice that we do not recognize Vedic education in our school curriculum. We pride on telling the world we gave Vedas, we gave Upanishads. We keep repeating there is plethora of information in these texts, but we don't recognize them. We didn't recognize them. Any child who spends decades, look at all the Ved Vidyalaya. Children in these schools spend 10, 12, 15 years learning Ved, but after that, they are not even certified. The National Institute of Open Schooling in 2015-16 decided to recognize this, and we started the 10th and 12th board in Bharatiya Gyan Parampara. We had before that arts, science, commerce. After that, we also have 10th and 12th in Bharatiya Gyan Parampara. These children have the knowledge corpus about Indian tradition, about Indian science, about Indian grammar, about Indian language, about semantics, syntax, as much as anybody else who studies English or Hindi or Tamil or Telugu. Why should they not be certified? And for that matter, if a child learns dancing and is able to prove oneself capable of performing as well as knowing dance as a discipline, why should the child not be certified? When we started work on the national education policy in 2020, we had identified 33 themes, 20 in higher education, 13 in school education. I had the great privilege of chairing 2 of these areas, vocational education and non-formal education. And I keep mentioning on all platforms, I met children from across the schools in India. Girls told me in different states, my first passion is dancing. If I had the opportunity, I would have just learned dancing, learned about dancing, various forms of dance, and that would have given me happiness. We have introduced or brought that in the national education policy. Why can this nation of 18% of the world population not provide facilities to 10 million students, girls, boys, every year to just perform dancing, learn dancing? Why can 1 million children not be painters? This policy is a landmark policy in that sense. I am reminded again and again when the first reports of the 33 committees were put before Subramanian, he gave a 180-page report, which was not really accepted and called a draft report. A second committee was constituted under the chairmanship of Kasturi Ranganji, which again came up with 480-page report, which was again not accepted by the Prime Minister. I don't think I'm revealing something which is confidential and secret. Prime Minister was not happy. He said, we have thick reports already with us. Go and implement Kothari Commission. Why do you want to have a new commission? Tell me something which you can really do. I am privy to all these discussions, and then came this 62-page report. Friends, read this report very carefully and read it in comparison to Macaulay's minutes. Macaulay's minutes is 9 pages, this is 62 pages. Very clear, like an office order. It's different from previous policies in the sense it clearly delineates on the problems that mar our system, what has to change in primary education, what has to change in language education, what has to change in language policy, what has to change in girls' education, what has to change in teacher education. And you will realize this policy is very different from the previous policies. Higher education. In spite of 70 years of independence, we have not been able to do away with the affiliating system. We went to colleges, we went to institutions, and they said that The university has absolutely no interaction with higher education institutions. Why are we affiliated to a particular university? Why has it not gone? Research has taken a backseat. If a nation has to prosper, research must be the backbone. If a nation has to prosper, academic institution must be headed by people who understand, who are stakeholders. We have not done that. The society does not trust. I'm now shifting to the tag that you have chosen for the conference, prospects and challenges. I will end with the prospects, but let me take up the challenges. Higher education has seen many ups and downs. I'm often reminded of the National Knowledge Commission Manmohan Singh created as Prime Minister. And the recommendations of the National Knowledge Commission were never accepted by the Ministry of Human Resource Development, headed by Arjun Singh. Some of the recommendations of the National Knowledge Commission have reflection on the National Education Policy 2020. The conversion of the University Grants Commission to Higher Education Commission of India. This was initially recommended by the National Knowledge Commission created by Manmohan Singh to advise him as Prime Minister. They had recommended a National Education Regulatory Authority because the UGC has lost its credibility. The challenge is establishing credibility of the system in the society. I need not ask the same question again. Do you trust the system? How many of us do trust our system? Very few. If at all anybody. Do we trust appointments are fair? Do we trust processes are fair? But how do we change it? The policy has recommended constitution of board of governors for every institution, where the people who would appoint heads or stakeholders will be stakeholders. Every institution will be autonomous in the sense that colleges will have autonomy to have their own board of governors, and they will select their own head or the chief executive officer, the expression which is often used in the acts, as well as the teachers. Similarly, for research, you are holding an ICSSR seminar. How many of us trust that our funding agencies are fair and above board? The policy suggests a formation of the National Research Foundation, NRF. Sina has given me 30 minutes time. I'm exhausting my time. I must quickly shift to the challenges. As somebody who has been part of various decision-making process, policy committees, my major concern is that the challenge our education system faces is of bureaucracy. There is too much bureaucracy in education system. What Macaulay introduced. Read the 1835 Macaulay's minutes. Macaulay definitely wanted the education to be managed by the government, because his intention was, or the intention of the policy that Macaulay or the British government gave to India was to convert our educated people into interpreters, to be link between the government and the people. We have not shifted from there. Education largely is managed by bureaucrats. Look at nations which have done well. Look at Finland. which is often quoted as the leading nation, top on PISA for continuously many, many years, the government has absolutely no say. It's managed by those who understand education, who are educationists. When we demand or put this agenda forward, it is often thought teachers want to take over education. They want to push out bureaucrats. It's not that. If India has to do or implement the NEP 2020, it will have to rely on the experts of the area. A school education must have a school principals. Those who understand schooling. What a joke. We do not even have one statutory body in school education in India. School education is completely managed by the government, which means the Minister for Education of the central government as well as the states. What is at stake for the government and the minister? It's politics. Why nations which have understood education handed over the decision-making process to educationists? Because what is at stake for them is good result and good graduates. We need, the major challenge would be to withdraw government interference from education in spite of all the good recommendations. I've only been able to refer to some of them, but I'm sure if you read the policy, you will find all along. It's a short document, like a government order. But if we want them to be implemented, we will have to have experts from the areas who understand. How can you have a national research foundation, actual researchers taking decisions, being center stage in research? How can you have a good university system without having the stakeholders, the teachers, the students in the decision-making process? Look at the acts. Look at the structure of bodies. Why do we have everywhere the government nominee as the prominent member of all committees? They serve the interest of the political party in power. This statement irritates the government of the day, but pleases the party and the politicians who are out of power. When I said such things before 2014, it pleased the BJP. But when I say these things after 2014, it displeases the BJP. But what is our job as educationists? The challenge, friends, is our educationists, and this is beyond NEP 2020. I'm sure I need to reflect on this. If really we want to implement NEP 2020, that if we want this policy to be implemented in letter and spirit, if we want 2040 to be a different India, based on the recommendations of NEP 2020, we will have to take the strong decision of handing over the experts the reins of decision making, whether in higher education or in school education, whether in research or technical education or in teacher education. Since 2014, the National Council for Teacher Education has been headed by a bureaucrat. Every 18 months, the officer is transferred. By the time the officer understands what is teacher education, the officer is transferred from the National Council for Teacher Education. That is a major challenge. We have not been able to find a teacher educator to head the National Council for Teacher Education. That's a major challenge. You have two major chapters in NEP 2020, chapter 5 and 15, about teacher education. The concern is genuine. If we want a different country, we'll have to have teachers center stage. I'm reminded on 7th August 2020, the Prime Minister addressed the teachers. After this policy was passed by the cabinet, he addressed the teachers and he said, you have the government support, you have my will with you, but teachers have to implement it. Teachers have to own this policy. The challenge would be, will the government be able to, will the government be able to hand it over to the experts? It always feels good to head institutions, to head commissions and committees. But will that be in the national interest? And will that help implement the NEP 2020? I don't think so. So if you really want to discuss and suggest what will help the NEP 2020 to become a reality in 2040, you will have to consider and reconsider the structure of the bodies which will implement these, because without that, I don't think this can be implemented. I'm exhausting my time. Sina will be unhappy. You have to go ahead with your second session. What are the prospects? I don't see a very bright prospect. That's a sad note to end on, but I don't see a very bright prospect. We have very good recommendations about education since independence, before independence. Look at Sargent Commission report. Read it and see the recommendations after independence. Mudaliar echoes most of the recommendations of the Sargent Commission, even Kothari. Why could we not implement them? It is because there is too much bureaucracy, and I don't see ray of light of these being really implemented. I will reiterate, it's a great policy, well thought over, very appropriate recommendations, very pinpointed, but we have always lagged behind in implementing. I often say teachers are more politically correct than the politicians. And perhaps we have been trained in India to be more politically correct. The challenge is, how can we infuse that self-respect, power in teachers to speak the truth? When a professor of economics makes a statement in US about the government's policy on education, the media takes it seriously, people take it seriously, the government takes it seriously, the President of America takes it seriously. When professors in India make statements, nobody takes it seriously. Our statements has taken as political statements for or against government. The challenge would be to create an academia which is above board, which is apolitical, which works only in the interest of the nation and the children, the students. For that, we need a robust schooling, which we don't have. We need to take very strong decisions about schooling, which I don't see. So I don't really, I'm going on record, I know, and in the modern post-COVID era, when everything is on record and in public domain, someone sometime will hear it 2035, 2040 and reflect on it. as an academic, as a professor of education who has worked on policies, and as it was mentioned for more than 35 years, I don't see a very bright future for academia in India. Your best students are going abroad, not only in higher education now, even in school education, mind you. We have become rich. We are no more a poor nation. The most affluent and the richest people come from India now. Their children don't study in India. You have large schooling system which is run by government, which is bereft of quality. How do you expect a nation to prosper? How do you expect a nation with 1.4 billion population to prosper if your schools are not performing, if your institutions are not performing? And the major reason is that you don't have a very robust system of decision making. All the good luck to the seminar. I would end here by saying it's a great policy, a landmark policy, which has the capacity and capability of changing the face of this country. It can transform this country if implemented in letter and spirit. However, our institutions have not functioned well. We are too politicized, and institutions do not have the backbone to speak the truth. We need to transform our institutions and infuse that power, that is strength in the institutions. Without that, I don't think we have a very bright future, 2040 or 2050. The best, the affluent, the rich will keep going abroad and serving the world instead of India. And if that happens and keeps happening, I don't think you have a bright future. Thank you very much for inviting me to throw light on the NEP 2020, a roadmap to self-reliant India. The policy NEP 2020 has the capacity, has the suggestions, but the implementation will have to have a radical change, which I don't really expect or see a roadmap. Thank you very much for inviting me once again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Sharma, for providing us wonderful thoughts to be further explored and implemented. The way you have precisely mentioned the challenges which actually needs to be worked on, it is like we are really inspired to do something in this arena to make NEP a real success, as you said, to implement it in letter to spirit kind of a thing. So we promise that we will try our level best belonging to the teaching fraternity to do our role, to do our part, and to play it skillfully enough to make it a success and make it happen actually. Thank you so much, Professor Sharma. It was wonderful listening to you. Thank you so much once again.
My privilege entirely. Thank you so much.
With that, we come to the end of the inaugural ceremony. I wholeheartedly extend my gratitude and wishes to one and all. I wish and pray for the success of this event so that we come out with real intentions, we come out with real ideas to be implemented at grassroots level. Thank you all the participants. Thank you, dear organizers. Here's an announcement.
Shreya wanted to ask something.
There is a question from one of the participants. Professor Sharma, would you be able to take that?
Yeah, sure, please.
So, let me just read it out, read the question to you. Miss Shreya Jha, she wants to ask, what will be the future of those students who took dance as their degree because there are no well-founded jobs for performing arts in India?
I think we are too accustomed to looking at education as a system of providing jobs. We need to come out of that. Our great tradition has been that education should be a process of emancipation. Sa vidyaya vimuktaye. Let's not look at education as a means to get a job. Let 100 or thousands of girls or boys learn dance and perform and earn a living. They may not be the most affluent, they may not be the richest in the society, but they would be the happiest in the society because they would be pursuing something that they did, they wanted to. The incident that I was quoting was of a girl from Ranchi. I talked to the students in Ranchi DPS, and the girl said, "Sir, if I was given a chance, I would have studied only dance." I asked the principal of DPS Ranchi, "Who is this girl?" She's daughter of the leading surgeon of the town. Both father and mother are surgeons, and they have a nursing home. They want this girl to become a surgeon or a doctor. The, the purpose of her education was lost because she derived pleasure in dancing and she wanted to pursue dance. Why do we want to see that if the girl learns dancing, she has to get a job? She can earn a living out of performing dance, and that will give her happiness. So let us not think the way we have been trained to look at education as a means to get a job. Education for happiness, for a happy society. I think we need to change the way we think about education.
Thank you, Professor Sharma. I feel that success needs to be measured with some different meter scale, actually. It is not
Yep.
just the material success we should be focusing on. Instead, it should be more of
Exactly.
aesthetic pleasure. It's happiness we are talking about. Thank you so much, Professor Sharma. I
Thank
hope,
you so much. Thank you. All the best
thank you,
for the
sir.
seminar.
I request all the participants to join their respective technical sessions sharp at 1 p.m. With that, we end the inaugural session. Thank you and all the best.